May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be aligned with you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Did you know that there exists a Cloud Appreciation Society? The author and poet of Psalm 19 would make a leading member with their now famous and published Sky and Law poem that has been in circulation for thousands of years. I've noticed that the clouds in Wisconsin look different to me than the clouds out east. Maybe because out east I was often enclosed by earth and trees, and I did not get as many big sky views before this northern Midwestern phase of my life. I wonder how watching the clouds and appreciating the sky can reorient us. Ralph Waldo Emerson writes, "The sky is the daily bread for the eyes. The sky is the ultimate art gallery just above us." From Eugene Peterson's translation of Psalm 19 in The Message, God's glory is on tour in the skies, Godcraft on exhibit across the horizon. Madame Day holds classes every morning. Professor Knight lectures each evening. Their words aren't heard. Their voices aren't recorded, but their silence fills the earth. Unspoken truth is spoken everywhere. Just by looking at the sky, in silent gazing, we are instructed with wisdom. By observing natural free sky art, we are filled with God's glory. The psalm then shifts from a beautiful sun and sky worshiping gallery to naming the ways we can encounter God's law, or what I might call God's vision and dream for us, which are gifts more desirable than fine gold and sweeter than drippings of a honeycomb, the psalmist reminds us. Comparing God's dream for us to food means that we find nourishment and sustenance, life force from searching for God's vision for us, from looking for God's yes to the world and society. Sometimes we might think that encountering beauty or goodness or pleasure or rest, such as looking up at the sky, is an indulgent privilege that can take away from our ability to focus on how we want to see the world change, can somehow take away from someone else or our own ability to focus on the justice work that we're so passionate about. There's sometimes, and necessarily so, an urgency around these things. But the psalmist would orient us differently, that seeking God's yes or encountering beauty flows directly into our ability to sustain the effort of seeking and bringing about God's vision of justice and goodness into the world. Contemporary activist Adrienne Marie Brown, in her book Pleasure Activism, writes, "I believe our imaginations, particularly the parts of our imaginations that hold what we most desire, what brings us pleasure, what makes us scream yes, are where we must seed the future, turn toward justice and liberation, and reprogram ourselves." This week, though, I felt a lot of no, honestly, observing the debate and the continued racism in our country, the uptick of the pandemic here in Wisconsin, and just the leadership that has left the most vulnerable more vulnerable, including the earth. I have felt so much no to this. We know that no is a favorite word a toddler learns, hilariously chanting no at almost anything. And as we grow, no allows us to assert choice over the world around us. No is a sacred way of having autonomy in our lives over our body and space and energy. No, please don't hug me. No, I'm sorry, I can't take on that project. Whatever it is, claiming that no and not ceding to what others want for us or the status quo is entirely sacred. And by the way, we can still reject the harmful stances of our current government and president while not wishing him ill and joining others in praying for his health. We can still say, no, we do not accept leadership in our highest office that degrades people of color. No, we will not accept racism in our schools. No to Black folks dying at the hands of police. No to forced hysterectomies. No to children in cages separated from their families. There is so much power in saying no. Yet, finding the sacred yes is just as powerful. Where does God say yes to us? And where do we say yes to the world and begin to envision what we do want, rather than that sometimes necessary place of no? For example, yes, I support Black wellness and thriving. Yes, I support racial justice in our schools. Yes, I support immigrant families staying together and women having autonomy over our bodies. When we can free our yes, God's energy, that sacred life force can flow into our lives and we can co-create with God. It is almost always possible to find that yes that sits next to our no. The psalmist speaks of encountering God's law or God's vision for us in really positive ways that make us desire it, want some of that honeycomb or fine gold. And to paraphrase the psalmist, God's law or God's vision, God's yes, is perfect. It revives the soul. It brings assurance and wisdom. It is when we rejoice in the heart. God's law has clarity and enlightens our eyes. It is pure and endures forever. God's law is true and thoroughly just. Why wouldn't we search for this and want it infused in every aspect of our lives? As I begin my time with you, I have gotten to feel the joy of seeing what was on the other side of the yes that I felt to answer this call. It was incredible to have my first day on Thursday to begin developing a wonderful working relationship with our phenomenal staff. First with Julie in the office, filling out paperwork, planning Sunday worship with Tammy and emailing with Ken, and then receiving incredibly generous baby shower. And Daniel and I were blown away by the generosity, the beauty, the abundance of being greeted this way. Thank you so much for the love shown, for the gifts, for the generous, gorgeous quilt, and then for making an equal donation to an organization in Madison, which helps low-income families and children. I loved this community-oriented aspect of the gift. My heart is full. The poem, God Says Yes to Me, speaks of an intimacy with God, involving God in average, everyday decisions and matters. such as indenting paragraphs and grooming rituals such as painting nails. The sassy portrayal of God gives us a picture of God so thoroughly in our business that it makes us feel really the sense of in God we live and move and have our being. This is a God of affirmation, a God who will stay with us and help us find the yes. The poem says, "Sweet cakes," God said. Who knows where she picked that up? What I'm telling you is yes, yes, yes. I would love to find the places of yes in this church and in Madison, even during the pandemic. What are we saying yes to? What visions for the world is God saying yes to right now? What aspects of who we are and what we are doing do we want to continue in this strange time? I sat in on a leadership team meeting the week before I began, and I got to listen in on the various ministries report what they are most excited about this coming year. And it was a privilege to hear you creatively focus on what is working during this time. While of course taking in the fatigue we feel about the pandemic, the anxiety about the election, but still finding the places of creativity and innovation that can move God's yes forward in our own community. And again, it impresses me so much that your search committee and leadership team stayed steady and non-anxious with the commitment to move forward together with me, with basically the same timeline we dreamed of before the pandemic. And following this yes speaks volumes about who you are as a community and who we are together, that we trusted the goodness and the momentum of the Spirit and the strong yes that we have all felt. What are the moments in your life where you feel that yes around you from the source of life? I invite you to soak those moments in because they do help sustain us in the moments where there is so much we want to reject. The psalmist finds God's yes by looking up at the sky and reflecting on God's glory in creation, and then weds that effortlessly to God's vision for the world. In fact, the psalmist asked for protection from that which might take away from these musings by singing, "Keep back your servant also from the insolent. Do not let them have dominion over me." Similar to Romans 12:21, do not be overcome by evil, but be overcome with good. We learn from the psalmist that which may at first seem indulgent or distracting from creating a more just world is fueling our ability to sustain our efforts to be whole and to harness God's yes for us so that we can unleash it and actualize God's dream for the world. So let us do our best to be overcome by good. Whether it comes to us by gazing up at God's beautiful handiwork in the sky or organizing for the revolution. We remember that Christianity is a yes to life over death. And now is the time to seek vision and action for a world we want to see our grandchildren grow up in, not the world that bad leadership defines. Christians have faith and hope and love, and when it comes down to it in moments like these, those aren't fluffy and easy values. And we need grace and God's vision, God's yes, to vivify these values. So let us soak in those moments and move forward with the good. Let it be so. Amen.